I'm Greg Wheatley, and my guest on Inside Wheaton today is Dr. Alan Seaman. Dr. Seaman is Associate Professor of Intercultural Studies at Wheaton College, also serves as Director of the TESOL Program, and that, of course, we'll want to talk about at length here in these next few minutes. He's also the author of a really exciting new textbook series, and we'll get into that as well. Alan, it's great to have you here.
Thank you.
First time you and I are meeting, but you're a real integral part of things here at Wheaton College, and I look forward to getting to know what you do here. So,
yeah, happy to be here.
Let's talk first of all about TESOL. That's one of those acronyms that maybe for some people needs explaining. What is TESOL? What does that stand for?
TESOL is Teaching English to Speakers of Other Languages. So it's an umbrella term for a lot of other acronyms that may or may not be familiar to people. A lot of people know what ESL is. That's English as a Second Language, and you find that in the public schools and adult education here in Illinois and around the U.S. Then there's EFL, which is English as a Foreign Language, and that is how English is taught to children and adults all over the world. And that's a booming field. The English language has many more non-native speakers than native speakers. It's one of the few languages like that.
Interesting. So actually that's a good place to go. My next question was going to be, there was a time when English seemed to be the worldwide, almost universal tongue. And these days that sounds a little patronizing. Is that still true?
Yes, and we have to be really careful about that because TESOL really involves training teachers of English. So my MA program trains teachers from the United States and other countries where English is the primary language to go out all over the world and teach English. And we also have a significant number of international students who come in from other cultures and study here and then go back. But they're learning English as a second or foreign language. It's not replacing their native language. It's an important tool, like learning how to program a computer and other things you would learn in your education. It just happens to be a very useful language right now in terms of globalization, but not superior to any other language, just a useful trade language and a useful second language to have.
Interesting distinction. This may not be a fair question for you, and you'll pardon me if maybe you don't want to answer it, but it occurs to me listening to that answer, there's been some interesting controversy about people in our own country, immigrants, and whether we require them to speak English. Does that fit in? Do you talk to your students about that at all?
Yes, we do, and we try to be very culturally sensitive about how we approach that. We want to take approaches that encourage bilingualism and biliteracy so that people are fluent in a native language and in English, recognizing that they need English to become U.S. citizens. That's part of the citizenship exam here, and to get greater opportunity in American society. But I feel that all Americans need to study foreign languages and become as multilingual as possible, and that would include immigrants coming here as well as natives of the United States who are taking foreign language classes.
Well, let's talk about this textbook series that that sounds like just tons and tons of work to me.
Yes.
How long has this been in the pipeline?
I wrote a proposal to the Association of Christian Schools International, that's an agency that has a headquarters in Colorado Springs, but they are truly international. I've been working with them, running workshops all over the world for teachers for the past 15 years or so. But I had been involved in other textbook series in the past, and they had a vision about 7-8 years ago to have a new textbook series for children in the national Christian schools around the world. There are thousands of them, concentrated in Latin America and across various Asian countries and then Central and Eastern Europe. And in all these schools, English is being studied as a foreign language. So they need a good textbook series with a Christian worldview and Christian values in it. There's nothing like that on the market. So I wrote a proposal, presented it to their board. It was accepted. They came up with the money, and we spent the next 7 years developing this thing, mostly here at Wheaton College, but also through the involvement of people all over the world.
So this would be, K through 12 curriculum? Or
it's actually pre-K through 6th grade.
Sixth.
So we've concentrated on the lower grades. Originally it was K-12, but I think that would take another 5 or 6 years, and I don't know if I have.
That's next on your list.
Yes, no. I really, it's an 8-level series, so it runs from preschool through 6th grade. Schooling is done differently around the world, so we have it divided into different age-appropriate levels without specifically connecting each to a grade level. So people in, say, the Philippines can use it a certain way, and people in Argentina can use it a different way.
So this would be story-based? Is that how you teach the language then, through stories? Is that the main idea of the text?
That's a big part of it, but we have a full range of components. At the preschool level, it's very creative and appealing to children. A lot of the lessons are taught through the use of a puppet. And it's fun to watch that. I've watched teachers using a sock puppet and training little kids, and they just focus in on the puppet and love it. In the primary grades, there's a focus on learning the alphabet and a lot of emphasis on songs, chants, stories. So there's a very strong audio component. And at the upper grades, what we call the explore levels, we have an emphasis on academic English across the content areas, a lot of science, social studies, language arts, even some math, and really engaging stories and longer things to read and listen to, and even projects. So we're trying to promote a good pedagogical approach for teachers throughout the world who are dealing with different levels of instruction.
And we were joking before we started this conversation about how many hours you've spent in this very room, or these rooms down here, because a lot of the audiovisual material was actually produced right here, right?
That's right. It was really a Wheaton College product. And I find that to be really exciting, because Wheaton College has wonderful resources for this kind of project. For 5 years, we had a group of children who were with the Community School of the Arts, who basically grew up with the project in the recording studio, recording songs and chants every month, and having well-developed final products created by the recording engineers here at the studios. And it was just a lot of fun to do that. And we had kids come in who had theater backgrounds. We had many adults come in and lend their voices, including people with Australian and South African, British accents, even Southern United States, just to represent different versions of English.
Right. Yeah. So give me an example, Ellen, of some of these materials and how they would fit with the book, maybe how a teacher would use those in a classroom setting.
Yeah, the audio plays a key role. And often, for instance, at the beginning of a unit, there's a theme song that the kids learn that introduces a unit on the world as God's creation, for instance. And so they learn a catchy song. Once you've learned a song in a foreign language, it sticks with you the rest of your life. Yep. And so they sing the songs, and then they listen to longer dialogues among various kids who represent kids at their age level who are talking about things that are in the textbook series. And then they hear adults reading things, and they might do a listening exercise where they're processing some new information about mountains or the ocean or something like that by listening carefully, taking notes, and then talking about it in class. So all these audios play a key role, especially in an English as a foreign language context, because they don't have the range of voices that they would hear in the United States.
And these are specifically geared for Christian education, is that the case?
It is.
Yeah.
Although we recognize that Christian schools have many people of other faiths who attend all over the world, so we try to be sensitive to that in the series and really keep the emphasis on integrating a Christian worldview and on having character traits and values emphasized that would appeal across the board to people, but also including some scripture and biblical stories and things like that.
We're going to talk about the TESOL program here at Wheaton, and maybe there's people listening today and they're thinking, is this something for me or maybe for my student? Talk about the program and what kind of student it would draw.
Yes, we have our main program, which is a master's program, and that's been around for over 20 years now. And we have over 1,000 graduates out all over the world, serving in every continent, every area of the world, as well as a number of teachers who work in the public schools and in higher education, adult ed, here in the Chicago area and across the United States. So everywhere I travel, I run into graduates of this program, and our goal is to take people who want to go in this direction professionally and prepare them for the teaching context they're likely to serve in. Most of our graduates are serving in secular programs, so our focus is on public education, on community colleges, university programs, what are known as intensive English programs across the United States, and then secular universities in places like China and the Middle East, Latin America, Africa. And so people combine it with service in a variety of ways and go out as international workers. And it just is a ticket that you can use to go pretty much everywhere in the world because it gives you a professional skill that people want.
Yeah. Tell me, too, I think there's a fairly new undergraduate component, right, that combines with teacher education?
Yes, and we're really excited about that. That was a joint venture with the education department here at Wheaton, and it's specifically for people in the teacher education program who are going out as elementary, middle, or secondary teachers and would like to add an endorsement in either bilingual education or English as a second language. So I worked with Dr. Lederhaus in the ed department to develop a program a couple of years ago. We implemented it, and now we've got a number of undergrads who are studying in these classes. We've got a new professor, Sarah Vrome, who is going to be full-time next year, and she's done a fabulous job helping implement this program. And so I'm very excited about that. I think it adds a whole new multicultural, multilingual dimension to teacher education here at Wheaton.
Yeah, and this, it's really, I mean, it's the future, isn't it? We're
yeah.
in that time where globalization, and I mean, this is something we've all got to be thinking about, isn't it?
Yeah, and one of President Reichen's initiatives is to globalize a Wheaton education. And we've been doing that through our various programs over the past 20 years, and we're finding that there are even more ways to do that now, such as this undergrad program or a cooperative program we run with ELIC, which is English Language Institute China. We provide all the professional development for their teachers across Asia, including a master's degree program with classes in Chiang Mai, Thailand every January, which is, by the way, one of my favorite aspects about teaching here. I get to go to Chiang Mai about 2 out of every 3 years in January when there's usually a blizzard here in Wheaton.
Yes.
And we have a pre-field training program for them. We run in Beijing and Phnom Penh every August, and classes throughout the year all over Asia. So we have adapted ourselves to agencies like ELIC that have a global reach, and we try to provide field-based programs for them as well as having a residential program right here on Wheaton's campus.
Tell me about, I think in July of this year, you're going to Indonesia.
That's right.
What is that trip all about?
That trip is linked to the textbook series, since the series has been adopted by Christian schools across Indonesia, by the Association of Christian Schools there. So at the invitation of the Indonesian office, we'll be taking what's known as the Wheaton College team of experienced teachers to run teacher training workshops in Surabaya and Jakarta, and also to run an English leadership camp up in beautiful mountainous locations near some wonderful volcanoes. And I did this 2 summers ago, and absolutely loved it. It's fun to take a team back, represent Wheaton College, and train people to use the textbook series, and just enjoy being in this wonderful culture and working with some of the finest people I've ever met.
I don't think we've said the title to this textbook series. It's Passport to Adventure, right?
Passport to Adventure.
Yeah. Yeah. And is that something, I mean, people would find that readily if they look it up online, or it is published now? Is it?
It's interesting because it's published in countries outside of the United States. It's primarily for that market. To make it affordable, we've sent the masters to the main offices in places like Korea, the Philippines, Indonesia, Brazil, and they have printed it there for distribution, so it's very affordable. I'm hoping that they'll have some copies stockpiled in Colorado Springs as well in the future. But to get the series, you would contact ACSI through their website.
Okay. What's next for you? I mean, this school year is winding down, and you're going to Indonesia in the summer, so maybe you may not have much of a summer break. But what's next? What's the next big project on your mind?
Well, I do a lot of travel, and that's one thing I love about my job. I try to stay in touch with what is happening all over the world with our graduates and with English language teaching. In about 3 weeks, I'll be traveling to Taiwan to speak at a conference there. It's the Christians in English Language Teaching International Conference. And then I'm going to go over into China and work with a graduate who is running a program in a Chinese city on the coast, not too far from Taiwan, and just participate in her work there. In July, I'll be taking a team to Indonesia. And what we're trying to do with these workshops is set up a prototype that we can use around the world. So I can imagine doing these workshops in a variety of countries, such as Brazil, Costa Rica, Guatemala, and other places that have adopted the series. And that's probably going to take up my time over the next year or so. And I probably need a break from big projects for a while, so
I would say so.
I'm going to concentrate on teacher training and publishing articles that are focused on the series.
Now, Alan, since these are teaching English to children who speak another language, how does are all of these books translated into the various global languages they need to be, and then I'm a little confused as to how the language issue works. If I'm in Brazil, I need a different book than if I'm in China, right?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. It always comes up. When we wrote the proposal 7 years ago and discussed it, we decided we would create one series for the whole world that is entirely in English in terms of the teacher book lesson plans, the student book, and the audio recordings. And our cultural approach is to make the study of English as a foreign language a window to the cultures around the world. So it doesn't just focus on American culture. It focuses on a variety of world cultures. And now I'm actually working with one of my grad students. I'd like to employ my grad students in projects like this. And she is helping me develop materials for the website that will be the prototype for websites that are created throughout the world to support the series. And the offices in places like Indonesia are going to translate a lot of the material, the training material, the lesson plan material into the local languages so that local teachers can better use it. So it's going out in one version, but it will end up being translated into dozens of languages.
This is fascinating. And again, the name of the series, if you want to look into it out of your own interest or whatever reason you might like, it's called Passport to Adventure. And it's a new textbook series which includes all of these multimedia resources as well. And we'll encourage you as well, if you'd like to find out about the program, the TESOL program at Wheaton for yourself or for a student, visit wheaton.edu where you can get a lot of good information about that. Dr. Alan Seaman is Associate Professor of Intercultural Studies and directs the TESOL program here at Wheaton College. Alan, it's great to have you here. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Greg. Wonderful to talk with you.
For Inside Wheaton, I'm Greg Wheatley.